I'm going to share with you a magic skill set that has the power to transform conflict into greater closeness and help you to not get triggered in important relationships to you. Because the most devastating experience we have in relationships that degrades the quality of the relationships is when one or both of us is reacting to the other from a place of being triggered. And so to set this up, I'm going to take you a little bit behind the scenes into my bathroom. And I promise this has a point, because my wife and I were brushing our teeth, getting ready for bed. And we're at the sink, and kind of out of the blue, I hear my wife say these words. And she says, "Honey, I'm not feeling close to you." When she said these words, it's hard to explain exactly what the experience was like for me, but the closest analogy I have is it felt like I was transported to a battlefield and there were bombs literally going off all around me. And I could feel my body temperature heat up. I could feel me go into fight or flight. And every ounce of me wanted to prove her wrong. Every ounce of me wanted to argue that she was wrong about us not feeling close, because look at the time that we had spent last week. Look at the dinner that I made her this last week. Look at the gift that I had given her. Look at all of this evidence to why she's wrong that we're not feeling close. Now, why is my brain going to defend me? Because when you and I get triggered, in other words, and it happens the most when we're in close relationships, somebody that we deeply love. It can be a love partner, it can be a family member. But when someone you deeply love says something, does something, and you feel triggered, what happens is, and they've done beautiful functional MRIs of the brain, your brain literally goes offline. So the prefrontal cortex, our executive function, where we have the ability to have compassion and understand and make decisions, the blood drains out of that part of our brain and goes right to our fight or flight part of our brain. And so we go into fight or flight because while our conscious mind knows that we're safe, our subconscious mind does not. Our subconscious mind feels like, ooh, this relationship is at threat. Because if she doesn't feel close, then I'm doing a bad job. If I'm doing a bad job, she doesn't want to be with me. If she doesn't want to be with me, I'm going to lose the love of my life and life as I know it. And so that's why our nervous system goes into this overdrive, and we immediately feel this need to be defensive and this need to prove the other person wrong. So when you notice that, I'm going to share with you some tools that can absolutely save the moment and help ultimately the relationship become closer versus go through a bunch of friction and the fight get way out of control. So tool number one is to notice what you're noticing, and notice when you instantly feel the desire to get defensive. Notice that when you instantly feel your heat go up, like you feel yourself get triggered, what you want to do is you want to buy yourself time. Because what's happened is your subconscious mind just went offline and you are now in fight or flight. The same thing as if you have a bear in your space chasing you, or you have the bombs going off. So one of the ways that you can buy yourself time is with 3 magic words. Tell me more. You want to ask the individual, tell me more. And what happens in that moment is that gives you enough time to breathe, and it gives you enough time to pause and get oriented when you feel yourself emotionally off balance. And what's great is that your partner actually doesn't feel you come back and counter criticize them. They don't feel you get defensive. Instead, what they feel is that you are open and you are listening and you're in discovery mode. And so when I asked my wife, I could feel myself get defensive, and I felt I was noticing what I was noticing. And I was like, tell me more, resisting every ounce that I had to get defensive. And she goes, well, I just don't feel like we're as close. We used to do so much more together, and now we're not doing as much together. And I want to feel closer to you. So in that moment with my wife, I was noticing what I was noticing. I was noticing how much defensive energy I had. And I had just enough forethought to pause and just say, tell me more. Resisting all the energy to get defensive and defend why I was right and why we were still close, trying to defend our relationship. And so she said, hey, well, we're not spending time together the way we used to, and we're not doing this and we're not doing that. And in that moment, Here's step number 2 is tell me more, and then you want to reset yourself on this belief. And this belief has changed my relationship life. And it comes out of A Course in Miracles. And it is this: every act, no matter how skilled or unskilled, is either an expression of love or a call for love. So in other words, my wife saying, hey, I don't feel close to you, is either an expression of her loving me, or it's a call that she wants to be loved in a deeper way. It's a call that she wants to feel closer to me. She wants to feel more connected to me. Even the person who's coming at you with critical energy, like coming in and saying, hey, your house isn't right. Maybe you have a parent that constantly criticizes what you're doing or the way you live. What if we put on the frame that every act is either an expression of love or a call for love, where you can actually put on like X-ray goggles to relationships and see, is this an act of love or a call for love? If it's a call for love, what is an unmet need that they have? Or how do they want to be loved? So often the individual who is critical, and we got you have people in your life like this. I know I do in my life, but when you can interpret, what is their criticism? Their criticism is their way of trying to feel important in your life, trying in a very unskilled way to add value, trying in an unskilled way to be closer to you because they're going to add value. If they can feel significant, then they feel more important. And so they're saying, hey, I want to feel important. I want to feel significant. It's a call for love. And so when you put that lens on, it actually flips the whole response around, where you can see it instead of criticism and resist the temptation to get defensive of like, look, my house is the way I want it. This can be the way I want it. And who are you to tell me this and all of that? And instead help connect where the deeper need is. And so in that moment at the bathroom with my wife, where I said, tell me more. And she began to say, well, I don't feel like we're hanging out and this and this and that. The next question is brilliant, where you say, what would it look like if? Okay, well, what would it look like if we were closer? What is it that you are really needing more of or less of? And she said, well, I just want to go on some day dates with you. Like we go on these night dates, but I want to do some activities together where we're not with the kids or we're not with our families, just like you and me bonding. Like maybe we could go on a hike or maybe we go to the beach during the day. And when she said this, what's funny is it was so simple. Like in her mind, it really wasn't a big deal. In my mind, I had bombs going off. I'm in the battlefield. I'm going to fight for the loss of this relationship and to keep it together. But in her mind, it was, this is not a big deal. And here's what really I want. And that's often how relationships get way out of sync. Because the feminine approach typically to correcting or getting more of what they want is to point out what's wrong so they can get more of what's right. Where the masculine takes that to the nth degree of saying, I'm failing you. And so if you both can come together and get to the specifics of, well, what would it look like if we were actually hitting the mark and get very specific together, that becomes a mission to the masculine energy. And he will go like, I can do that. When she said, I would love to do some day dates. And I said, if we went on some day dates, would you be feeling the level of closeness that you wanted? She was like, oh yeah. All my temperature dropped. All my anxiety, all the fear completely melted away. I was like, oh, like, I can do that. How about this weekend? Like, let's go Saturday. And she's like, I would love that. Give me a big smile, gave me a big hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was this close to defending myself, telling her why she was wrong, proving that we were close, and ultimately creating a bigger disconnect, more friction, more frustration. And I was so grateful for these tools. Now, there's one more magic concept when it comes to helping become closer through conflict. But let's just recap what we've covered so far, because they're super powerful. Number one is buying yourself time with the question, tell me more. Number two is the frame or the belief that every act, no matter how skilled or unskilled, is either an expression of love or a call for love. And then number three is, what would it look like if? In other words, get really specific on what is the outcome that you're wanting to create. Now, this last piece comes from the Gottman Institute, and they call it the anger iceberg. And that is that anytime you're feeling angry in the relationship, or someone's coming at you and they're feeling angry, the way to solve it is by actually getting underneath the anger and looking at the unmet need. And they call it the anger iceberg because just like an iceberg, that there's the feeling on top, but there's often unmet needs below. It's like the presenting iceberg, and then 90% of it's below the surface. And so the anger is the presenting emotion, but often the anger is generated by either fear, sadness, or betrayal. There are other emotions that might be igniting this anger, but those are the big ones. And so if someone's angry and they're coming at you and they're mad, they're like, this should have been done and that wasn't done, this and this and that, the deeper need that you can speak to and then make an agreement around is you can ask yourself, what are they afraid of right now? Oh, they're afraid of trust being broken, or they're afraid of the business failing, or they're afraid of we're going to lose our house if we don't pay these bills, whatever the deeper fear is. If you're angry, a great practice is to pause yourself and say, what am I either afraid of? Or what am I sad about? Or what am I feeling betrayed, like a broken agreement? And then you can actually go there and speak from that place where you, instead of saying, I'm so angry at you, you can say, you know what? When this happened, I actually felt really scared that XYZ, or whatever the thing that you feel scared of. And when you can speak to the secondary, the deeper layers of emotions, it actually helps the person understand you better, helps you to come together faster, and helps you solve the real deeper need in a much more effective way. So there you have it, the tools for how to let yourself not get triggered, how to understand the other person better, and how to actually resolve and create an outcome that's really productive. So if you would love more skill sets for how to create closeness out of conflict, I highly encourage you to get Cracking the Man Code. It is going to change your relationship life. There's an entire chapter with all kinds of techniques on how to transform conflict into greater closeness. And my question for you is, what are the techniques that you use to melt that energy and to create more closeness? Go ahead and put that in the comment section below. Here is to you living a life you love and creating amazing relationships. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.